Hey y'all, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight season 16, Nashville, episode 7. But before we do that, please make sure you are subscribed to our channel. We have, I feel like, one of the best communities. I look forward to reading the comments every week. It's really fun. And I'm so glad, that we have this community on here. But yeah, so subscribe, become a part of the community, and give this video a thumbs up. I think that's
Mm,
everything. All right.
Yep.
All right. So we are going to dive in, starting with Kirsten and Shaq, because we don't have much on them this week. They didn't show them a whole lot.
No, we don't really have anything. I mean, I guess the only thing I could say is I'm still getting mixed signals from Kirsten. Am I saying her name right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still getting mixed signals from Kirsten. I feel like she's not that into him, but then she says certain things where I'm like, okay, maybe she's trying. She said in one of her confessional cams that she says that she knows she needs to create the space or energy for Shaq to know that she's
Mhm.
interested in him.
Yeah.
So if you know that, then why aren't you doing it?
Or maybe she is. I don't, it is hard to tell because I think they must be very intentional about what they show during filming versus not during filming. So I feel like this is a couple where we won't really know. And anything that we do know probably is going to come from Shaq. Like that's how I feel about them.
Yeah, I will say when they were sitting down, I think it was at the group dinner. We can
Hmm.
just go ahead and include what they said there because it wasn't much. She said that they're at a 7, he's at a 7.
I'm glad she went first. That I wanted her to go first for a fact. With that one, I was like, nope, don't let it be Shaq, and then she got to come after, start with her. So I'm glad that she
Yeah.
went first.
I thought she was gonna let him go first when she turned her head to the side, but she kept talking. I said, okay, good. Go ahead and get your answer out there. And he was just like, okay, I agree. I go with 7
Yeah,
too.
that's
So
what
yeah,
she was gonna do if he had gone first. So yeah.
yeah. I don't know if it was the scene where they were all together or not, but I think they were with the group where she said, oh, he plays a lot
Hmm.
and there's a time and a place. Here she go bringing it up again. I was just like, okay, Mama Kirsten, time and a place for everything. Yeah, I don't know. Something about the way she says it just gets under my skin.
Well, people agreed with you in the comments last week. They're like, "Yep, she was lecturing him."
I don't know. And I think what it is too is that we haven't seen that side. So I think my perspective would be different if with McKinley, I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
we've seen what you've been up to, but with him, we haven't seen much
shove it.
of
Okay.
anything. And his energy is just so like chill. When
Hmm.
he's with the group, he isn't even joking around a whole lot from what we've seen.
Hmm.
So maybe that's also why I'm just like, girl, let this man live.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much about them we don't know and won't know. I think she's
Yeah.
holding her cards close to her chest. I think in theory, she's gonna make a great wife because of the things that she says and like um in the diary cam. I like how she handled the conversation last week, not like, taking her voice above a certain level and being able to resolve it at the end. So yeah, I think she has all the tools. It's just like putting them into action, which honestly is a lot of people because you could talk a good talk, but when it's time to walk a good walk, it's a little more difficult, I think.
Well, I feel like she's gonna need your support
I feel
from
like I'm
me.
the only one supporting her at this point. I
She
don't
gonna
know
need.
why I feel that. It might be because in real life, I know for me, I'm very introverted, so that's one thing. But also when it comes to like a romantic partner, I don't show all my cards when I'm in front of other people. I'm just very like shy about that. Not to say Kirsten shy, but maybe that's why I identify with her. I'm like, okay, there's probably more there that we're not seeing. But
It's okay, girl. We'll let you stay Team Kirsten. It's all good.
Someone said that last week. She was like, girl, I respect your opinion, but I was like, it was so respectfully said.
I
But
mean, who knows? She might shock us all and she's over the whole bald head thing. And I mean, we still have a ways to go in this process. So
she
we
needs to
can't,
be. I hope
yeah,
she is over the bald head. Like, girl, give it a rest. I'm glad she didn't bring it up at this thing, but of
girl.
course she's already brought it up a few times
Yeah.
already. So
But yeah,
yeah.
that's all we have on them. We can keep it
I
moving.
have one more thing on them.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I thought it was funny that she was commenting on him being messy on vacation, but when it was time for them to go to her house, which we didn't see the whole thing, she's like, I'm messy. My closet's a mess. I'm like, not you calling him out on vacation and you're messy back at home. So I thought that was interesting. And then I guess they've agreed that she would be doing their laundry. And it's something that
Mm-hmm.
she's like, because he asked, are you going to, like, do you my laundry and your laundry together? And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I would probably do yours first and then mine later. So it seems like there has been some type of conversation about certain chores that they each might take on when they move
Mm-hmm.
back. So that gives me hope that there have been conversations that are meaningful and practical happening behind the scenes for them. And then lastly, he gave her a forehead kiss when they were going to bed, but I don't know what that means. So
I mean, it's progress.
maybe. Yeah, I guess it is progress.
Considering where he started.
Yeah, and they've been married for 8 days, for a little over a week at this point. So, but okay, now that is all that I have on them.
Okay.
All right. Next we're gonna do Gina and Clint.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think one of the funniest scenes this episode was Clint sitting with Chris, and then
Mhm.
Airris comes up. He's like, "Oh man, I need you right now. You're exactly what I need." And I'm like, Airris, I wasn't expecting much, but Airris actually delivered, which was so shocking to me. I don't know
Mm.
how you felt about that.
I think he delivered if he understood the entire context of what happened. I think the information he gave was correct based off of what he knew.
Okay.
Yeah, I think had he understood the full context of the conversations that had been had before, I also think that would have pushed Clint to also be more honest about where that came from because even he was like, "Oh, it wasn't what I meant. It was just maybe the way it came out." Come on now, Clint. You know what you were trying to do.
But I
Come
liked how,
on.
like, Eris. Okay, so I said that Eris had great advice, especially when he tried to point out, that that's something that she could be insecure about, and he didn't leave it there. He was just like, "So can you see though, like how she would have taken it?" And I really liked Eris in this scene. I know there won't be a lot of scenes that I like him in, so I'm trying to put the ones that I like out there. But I do think he was what Clint needed, because even when Clint kept saying, well, but no, and then she's like saying this and that, and it wasn't what I meant, so it should be okay. And Eric's like, no, 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 I feel you, I understand. But do you also see how? So I think he handled it very, very well. And I liked the guy session. Like, they were supportive, but they still held him accountable, I think, and gave him the instruction that he needed to go and fix whatever the problem was. It probably won't work. He and Gina will have another argument probably soon. And but I think it worked out in this case.
Yeah, I agree. It set him up to go apologize and do what he needed to do for his part. But I
Mhm.
think what it also did was maybe soften his expectations of an apology from her or
Mm.
to set things right because there was so much focus on what he did. I don't think that Eris said it that way on purpose. He just didn't know the full
Mm.
context of everything that had happened. And so I think it was right. He needed to go apologize because it was coming from a place of off the cuff and I'm gonna kind of put you in your place or say what I have to say because you said what you had to say, which he apologized for. But I think, like if you have a conversation with someone and they're like, all right, girl, you know you were wrong.
Mhm.
But if you didn't have a chance to fully explain the entire situation, you might go back and apologize, and there's no accountability from the other person because you're so focused on what you did. And we see later on when they're within the group scene, she acknowledges that he apologized, but the same way that she has insecurity maybe around her weight, as Airris said, he could have insecurity around being a ginger. And she also followed up with it by saying, oh, well, I do redheads all the time, or I'm friends with other gingers too. So there was just I think it set him up to be okay with a lack of accountability on her part.
I think I see what you mean, because it's like, okay, you might do something to someone and you're wrong, but then they do something bigger and now all the attention is on the bigger thing, and when the dust settles it's like, no, but you were also wrong. So that's kind of what you're saying.
That exactly how Morgan and Ben played out, where it was like there was so much focus on how he handled it that no one wanted to talk about the original issue that kind of set the problem up, even though Ben handled it wrong.
Got you. I
And what
do
did
you
we
think
do? I'm sorry. We watched Ben apologize 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think Gina's apology needed to be a public one though?
So I don't know if it was the after party or where I saw it, but I think Clint was saying that in that session when they were all together, she did publicly talk about how she didn't usually date redheads. It came up in a group setting at a certain point. Um, I don't know that her apology needed to be in that moment. At a minimum, I would have expected her to say something to the effect of, hey, there were other conversations that by including myself that may have contributed to Clint responding in the way that he did, because within the way that whole scene was set up to where he's standing up, he's apologizing, all the girls are against him, it was almost like she was okay with sitting there and watching him take the full rap for something that she also had a hand in.
Okay, so in my opinion, his apology being public was because he said something that could have been offensive to the other women.
But
And so
even
I
the
think
way that that arrived was her being like, "Oh, well, and the other women who were there felt a way." I don't know. I saw mixed reviews around if other women were around in that comment. Like the way I heard the comment and him being like, "Oh, I usually date da 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 da." It's like I'd be like, "Okay,
but
like
they were offended though. Like because they did say
I
in
th-
their private girl chat that it
I
was
think that they
something.
were offended, but I think that they were more embarrassed for her. Like in terms of like offended versus embarrassed, I think they were more embarrassed for her than they were offended. And once they saw her reaction, they were like, "Oh heck no! Like they're not gonna do our girl. He's not gonna do our girl like that."
So that was just my understanding, that he did the public apology because not only were his words, like offensive to her, but they were offensive to other people. And of course there's a lot that we don't see, but from what I remember, the only thing Gina said in public was that, the attraction wasn't there for them just yet. She didn't mention redhead, he did. But I say all that to say Gina definitely owed him an apology. And because even if it's not like something that's offensive to all people with a redhead, like to all redheads, it's something that was offensive to him. So he deserves, a genuine apology. And I hope that he got it. And if he didn't, I hope he gets it. But
I,
yeah.
I guess the part of me too is that okay, if this is my spouse and I know that him and I having a dialogue, right? And other people are
Yeah.
around,
Hmm.
but I know that there's a previous conversation that may have led to the responses within that conversation. I don't know,
Hmm.
something about me, I would be compelled, even if it was an apology to kind of let the record show, like, because I'm also like being protective of my spouse and their image as well. So a part of me would be like, okay, if I had a hand in this playing out the way that it did,
Hmm.
I would at least acknowledge that. Like the conversation y'all saw was a second, third conversation piece of a larger conversation that had been had. And we got into a tiff in front of y'all.
That's interesting. Okay,
Because
I
it's
don't.
my at the end of the day, it's my spouse. Like, I don't know if I would have just sat back. Now, granted, they're married only but a few days.
Right. So I don't think they
So
have that protection or
they
like image, you know?
exactly. But now if I had no hand in it, I'd be sitting there like she was like, and what you got to say? But if I know that this is a part of another conversation that was had, as well as if I know that when because she said like, "Oh, I'm a runner. I walked away." She just did not want to acknowledge that about anything that she said was wrong. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I would have just let him get up there and just sat there quietly the way that she did. I understand why she did because they've only been married for 2 days, but
But 2 days. I don't know. I don't think she had to, but that's me because I think the apology was for the other women, but I don't know.
mm,
I will say though, like what what did you think of the apology? Because it felt like it went on for a while, and Nicole on the after party said it went on a lot longer than what we saw, obviously. But I think it started out great, and then it did like take some turns. You know, when someone starts talking and they've reached a really good stopping point and they just continue. That's what it felt like. If I were in that room, I would have just stopped at the point that I would have stopped listening at the point where I thought he should have stopped talking. But yeah, I think it was okay, the apology, but it
it
didn't.
was about what you would expect when it was true to who he is. He didn't think he did anything wrong. Y'all were in y'all feelings about something he said regarding him and his wife.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it was about what I expected from him. And the
That's
fact that she didn't say anything, I mean, what do y'all
Yosha.
expect?
Yosha. Okay.
What did y'all expect Clint to really get up there and do? Of what we've seen of this guy?
Yeah, I think he started out great and he just should have ended sooner. But it was funny
Yeah.
when he says, don't just think it's me and Gina. I said, dang.
Well, because I think they all the energy was on them. Everyone's kind of looking on, with their eyes,
He
like,
probably felt that way, but I don't think everybody was just like, oh, they're the couple who had the argument because everybody else
no.
is pretty much in shambles too, except maybe Kirsten and Shaq because we don't know. And then
Mm.
Nicole and Chris.
Yeah, maybe that was his nervous way of like getting the energy off of them. Like, don't think y'all ish don't stink too. So
Yeah, it felt unnecessary. I think they all knew, like, of course.
yeah,
Um,
theirs just played out in front of everybody. So
you know what I don't like about Clint?
mm.
He swears he knows Nicole. And I
Oh,
hate like every time they go to the diary cam or whatever it is, and he's like, oh yeah, Nicole, I know her. I know New York people. As if they're a monolith. I know New York people, and I think she's just gonna trample over him. Those weren't his exact words, but I think she's just gonna trample over him. And it's like you don't know this man's wife. You don't know this woman. Obviously, he hasn't seen like the level of like care and concern that we saw she showed to him during this episode. But I really hate anytime he talks about Nicole. Hate it.
so I don't think he should be talking about her, but I think the reason why is even from what we've seen, Nicole was the most vocal, I think. Even when she was like, "Oh, well, I speak on behalf of everyone. If she's okay with it, we'll, let it go to." My guess is Nicole has been maybe more vocal in these group settings.
Mhm.
And so when he gets to the confessional cam, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know her. I know how she is." Maybe in the moment he isn't saying everything that he really wants to say, but there's something there between them two where he don't see it for her and she don't see it for him. Even when she had her confessional cam after he said what he said, she was
Mhm.
like, "Well, if it were me, I'd do whatever, whatever to him." You remember that from last week?
Oh, when she where she said she was like, I
I'd
I
stab
slit
him
his
or
throat or
something.
something. There was something violent. Yeah.
So my guess is there may have been some little comments that have been made to where when he gets on his own, he's running his mouth about her.
I
He's
don't
not
know.
running his mouth about nobody else.
I think
Why?
what yeah, but nobody else is from New York. But I
And
think
nobody else might not be as vocal.
I think that's why I hate it though, because there's this suggestion that just because you're vocal, that means that you're trying to trample over somebody else or not give them a chance to express. And then I hate it because I think he has a really like warped view of what strength in a man looks like. Like Chris is an adult man. He has gotten his points across every time we've seen him converse with Nicole, and so don't assume that just because I'm choosing not to be vocal that that's weakness. I think that's why it rubs me the wrong way. It feels like he's um, painting Chris as weak and Nicole as like overly aggressive or something. So I hate hearing him talk about them as a couple.
Yeah, and I think the ways that Chris gets his ways, he ain't
Mhm.
showing the rest of the group yet.
Right, because
They
it's
don't
not their
know.
business. Like
Yeah,
I don't care how many group outings we have.
because
Like
that dog scene.
the ocean. You feel like he did that to get, I guess we're going to them next anyway. So
Yeah.
but the last thing I put on them is like I don't want to hear Gina talk about physical attraction anymore. We understand. We get it. You don't have to keep telling us. It's okay, like that's perfectly fine. I thought it was funny when Airris was like, to me she's small. Yeah, we know. We know Airris. We know the type you like. You've told us a lot of times.
Eris, Eris, Eris. Lord have mercy.
All right, let's do Nicole and Chris before we do
Mhm.
Jasmine and Airris. Okay. So Nicole and Chris, I'm gonna let you start because I'm not a pet person, and so I'm always like hesitant, being the one to say my feelings about how people react to pet situations. So
Girl, I'm not a pet person. I don't have a pet.
you have had a pet though. When I met you, you had a pet.
True. Um, okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what apartment they thought was gonna allow them to have 3 dogs in the first
Well,
place.
the same apartment that let Lindsay and what's the man's name? Mock the Shock have like 50 cats.
Yeah, but that's in Boston. I don't know where like I don't know, maybe it's just different there, but in the South, I feel like people when they have animals, I think the expectation is if you have animals, you probably have a house or you're living in a condo. I've always heard like they have minimums. So to me that makes sense. Um I'm really not trying to be insensitive, but when I saw that he was crying, I thought that he got like devastating news. I'm like, gosh, don't let it be that someone's passed
Yeah.
away or was in a really bad car accident. I mean, so when I find out that it's about the dogs, my first thought is, okay, was this a setup by production? Because why wouldn't you have had a conversation with her and then if she said, oh, it's my dogs versus your dogs, or your dog's not going to be able to come, then I would understand him being upset. But him crying like that and a conversation hadn't been had to at least try to get a plan together,
Mhm.
I'm like, what is this?
Especially because, okay, so they knew there were 3 dogs involved when they were matched, right? And so that was the first thing for me. You guys knew the number of like animals that would be coming. And then is it just me or are the apartments smaller this season? Like they only have 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, and it's always been 2.
So I'll say that I wonder if within the matchmaking process, that if on the application they ask them, okay, for the 2 month time period, for
Mhm,
whatever reason, would you be open to boarding your dog or not them not coming to the place? Because the contestants don't know if they're going to match with someone with a dog. Like for Gina and Clint, it's not an issue because Clint doesn't have a dog, right?
mhm.
But I wonder if up front they're like, okay, this is a possibility that you may not be able to bring your dog. Are you okay with that? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's fine. I can find another place for my dog until they're in the moment. And then it's like, oh, now we have to choose. I'm just saying, I wonder if that's the
Yeah.
case or is production really messy to where they would make these people choose?
That's the option I was going with, but also if you knew that was a situation, why are we in these baby apartments? Like, I don't, maybe there have been budget cuts, but they have always had an extra room and an extra bathroom.
Oh, it's
And
a one
this,
bedroom this
yeah,
time?
there was only one bedroom and
Oh.
it wasn't like, it might have been a full size bed, full or maybe queen, but the bed looked kind of small. One
Yeah.
bathroom, one bedroom, and then the couch in the kitchen area. So in past
Yeah.
seasons, they've had bigger spaces. So I just
But I
kind
don't know
of,
that that would have mattered though for the
not for
dogs.
the, maybe
Yeah.
not for the dogs, but like, it is something that I noticed, and I don't know if anybody else noticed,
I
but those apartments are small.
I
This
also heard that some of the cast wasn't very happy with the accommodations as far as the resort that they picked, because I did notice that they were in some like other random area of Jamaica and not like the three main vacation spots, like
Mhm.
Montego Bay, Ochos Rios, Negril. Those are like the major. They were in some
Yeah.
other random place, and that the resort wasn't really what they would have expected. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe they are struggling for coins at Married at First Sight.
That no, I'm just wondering, like, why would but anyway, so yeah, he's crying over the dog. And I also thought it might have been a lot, but because I'm not a pet person, that's what I didn't want to be the first one to say it.
Oh,
But I did.
okay. So I didn't. Okay, I would have understood that he was crying and
Mhm.
upset if he had spoken to her and it was like, hey, yeah, then it's going to have to be your dogs that aren't going to be able to come, or we haven't been able to reach a solution. It
Mhm.
was just odd that, like, okay, you get this news and then you're like bawling, crying before you try to see like what can be done here. I don't know. Something about that whole, because then my next thought was, well, how do you know that it will be your dogs and not hers?
Because he's the one who has two. So he probably felt like, okay, the most reasonable thing would be my dog. Like, I'm the one who's bringing, multiple dogs.
But wouldn't you ask
I can
that?
understand his sadness. I can definitely understand the sadness. And I think sometimes we go to the emotion before we go to like a solution. So I can understand him being sad. Him crying did seem like a lot to me. Um I how do you feel about how Nicole handled it?
I think Nicole handled it exactly the way that I thought that she would. Because
Okay.
she gives me, I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix it, baby. Don't worry about it. And that's where I don't know. Um, it also, I feel like, didn't give her a chance. So, like, when you go to someone and they're already like freaked out and crying, you
Yeah.
start agreeing to stuff and like calling around, like you're in panic mode, maybe not even prioritizing you.
Feelings.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't until probably like hours later, or she got on the phone with her dad, where she's like, wait, I don't want to send my dog all the way to Florida either.
Yeah.
So it was almost like it took away the opportunity for her to kind of be level headed to think about it too,
Hmm.
because you're trying to console the person and make it right. Uh, so yeah, she handled it the way that I thought that she would, but I also felt for her because I felt like she was like, oh, like kind of agreeing to stuff and we'll do, I can do this, I can do that. And I don't even think she had time to really process even what she was
Willing.
agreeing to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did like in the moment when she said, I don't know what the solution is yet, but like we can figure something out, because it seemed like he was not even considering that. There were options. So I think what they came up with though was that they'll be swapping out the dogs. So they'll have both of his dogs sometimes, and then other times her dog can come with one of his dogs. From what I understood, by the end of the episode there was going to be some type of swapping, and her dad or someone's going to come and stay at her apartment and take care of the dog. His earrings gonna fall.
And then also I was thinking, okay, well, did he have a chance to talk to some of his people to
He
say
doesn't
like
know
what,
yet.
see, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's falling on her
Yeah.
to like make these sacrifices and make it right. And I do think that, and I'm not saying that he was faking it, but I do think that her walking in and seeing him like that,
Yeah.
it like heightened the severity of it and maybe the sacrifice that she would need to make by seeing him in this state.
Gotcha.
And I think if he was more calm about it, I don't know if she would have rushed in being like, well, I'll do this or we could do that. Okay, we still need to figure it out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, I don't think it would have all fell on her to make the sacrifice of her dog swapping in. And I was like, okay, well, can you get on the phone with some of your people? Like, can this be a bit even or but when you're in that moment and you're dealing with a person who's crying like that, you're like, oh, I just have to
I just want them to stop.
stop or get them
Yeah.
off the edge and just like
Yeah.
calm the situation. But we'll see. I hope she doesn't feel away like later
Later
as
on,
time progresses
like resentment. Yeah.
because she agreed to all of this on like day.
Right.
Actually, they were still on the honeymoon. They hadn't even had a chance to make it back home.
Yeah, it was the last
Okay,
day.
let's think on the plane ride. Let's put our heads together. I don't know. I feel for her.
So when they got home and she was like, "Oh, do you love me yet?" And he's like, he was like, "No, I don't love you." She's like, "No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, girl. You know, you were not playing. If he would have said yes, you would have said, 'I love you too.'" Like, let's be for real. Like,
She is interesting. Like the way she said it, I was just like, girl, what are you doing?
when he loves you, he'll tell you. Like, I promise you. Like, when the
But you
time
see the way
comes.
he was just like, no.
I will say, yeah, he did. He was like, he was very direct about it. I did want to say on the after party, Keisha and actually Stasha was on the after party this week. Yeah.
Okay.
So Keisha was like, I thought somebody had died because they, obviously felt like Chris had overreacted. And Nicole was there for her man. She was like, well, Stasha, I understand you wouldn't get it because you don't have a dog and you're not a dog person. And like she
Sasha
was
does have a dog.
no, remember
Oh,
they
she didn't.
watched
Oh, they wanted a
somebody.
dog. Oh, she babysat a dog. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's her name's dog? Kristen.
Yeah, Kristen. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Nicole was defending her man. Like they had to stop the conversation because you could tell she was like, "No, let me step in his defense and this, that, and the other." So yeah, Nicole is a writer for sure.
Yeah, she gonna stand beside her man. I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Um, Jasmine and Airris. Is that who we're going to next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jasmine and Airris.
All right. This was a little bit awkward this episode. Um because he was really transparent with the guys. Like I understand him trying to find the right moment to tell her, "Hey, I'm not necessarily feeling that type of attraction to you." So I can understand him waiting a few days after he realized it. But where he messed up was telling the men, "Hey, I'm not really interested in her like that." And now they're at this dinner and everybody knows but her because the men probably told their wives. So
Of
it's
course.
it's like
Shaq
Shaq
did.
did, right? So I felt really bad, very awkward in that situation because everybody knew except Jasmine, pretty much, and she didn't deserve that. So yeah,
Mm.
that to me is where he messed up, and it made for a very awkward moment.
Yeah, I will say though, what adds to it is that he put 20 on 10 saying that she thinks that he's a 12. So I think that also adds to his narrative of she's just way more into me than I'm into her. I think she's trying, but
Yes.
I don't take her to be a fool. I think her to be trying to understand the mixed signals.
Yeah.
And the way that he presented her in front of the guys, one, all the sexual talk problem, two, you saying that she's a 4.5 and she thinks you're a 12. Nothing about her energy has said that you're a 12. Like
Yeah.
she's trying, but not a 12. Um, so he said that he's feeling all this anxiety. He said that he's been stressed out about it. Um,
You don't believe him?
I don't know if it's that I don't believe him.
Okay.
I think that what's causing the stress is that you've given mixed information and that there are certain scenes where it's like you're making her think like, oh, there could be more here, and I'm really trying. And he said, oh, I need more time. Time could fix it. Can it?
I don't think so. And that's where I have a problem with him.
And that's where I think he's stressing about it. He's feeling some type of way because you're not being honest.
With himself. Like
Yeah.
I think he really believes, oh, in time this will work out. And it's like that's just not how things work.
Yeah, you're stressing yourself out because you're saying it's time and it's not going to be time.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But he said he already figured out, this is when they're sitting down together.
Hmm.
He basically friend zones her, but I've already figured out that you're going to be there if I get in an accident and I need you to wipe my behind. I had a problem with that
What was the problem you had with it?
because out of all the things to say, okay, with that bit, what I heard, even though this is not what he said, I heard, yeah, we've only been together for 2 days, but you seem desperate enough that you would show up for me, and you're thirsty enough for marriage that you would show up for me in this like caretaker role after only 2 days.
That's how you heard it.
That's exactly how I heard it, and I'm standing by. Y'all tell me if
Okay.
I'm wrong in the comments. Like, what is that to say to someone? Like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I already know you're gonna be down for me. One, you didn't say that you would reciprocate it. And then two, you within the same conversation, it's like, I'm only getting friend vibe. Well, if you're only getting friend vibes, then why would you even say that? Because it would be your spouse, the person you are in love with, that would show up to caretake for you either in your elderly years or if you're in a bad car accident.
Yeah.
It almost was like, this is what I think of you without saying this is what I think of you.
And even her reaction, it's like, do you know that? Like, who do you take me for? I don't necessarily think I saw it the way that you did, because those are some specific words. But
It bothered me.
I definitely think he was saying, you're more committed to me than I am to you, for sure. Like I can see you being committed even for the bad stuff, whereas I can't even commit for the good stuff. I think that's what he was saying for sure.
I think those were what did he tell? What did Clint say? Oh, I could have said it more eloquently. He could have said that more eloquently.
It was a little clumsy, yes.
It, it was a whole mess. Like, what is that to even say to
Yeah,
somebody?
and that's not even giving her like a chance. We're seeing her actions, and granted, I want her to stop catering to him immediately, but like we're seeing her actions, but that doesn't mean they go that deep. This is a lot
Yeah.
for anybody, especially someone you met 7 days ago. I thought she was very sweet with like the whole, I'm taking the approach of giving you grace. And it reminded me of what Chris had said in his like private talk with Nicole before the cameras, the diary stuff. He said, I think she's ready to be a wife, but he's not ready to be a husband. And I think we've known that for some time, because she absolutely came into this open, like no matter who they would have brought with her, she would have tried, because look at who they brought, and she's still trying. So yeah, I think she's very sweet for giving him grace, and I don't think it's going to work out for her. But yeah, I put, he's still allergic to eye contact. And when they got home, he really thought he was running things. Like, okay, I need this left side and this top drawer. Don't touch that. Oh, don't do this in the house. Like, why are you dictating rules to me when this is a neutral space that we're supposed to determine, what's what in? But he's like, take off your shoes at the door, which, I think that's understandable. But take off your shoes at the door. Don't touch my stuff. Don't touch my side. Like he's setting very clear boundaries. And even if you haven't lived with someone before, clearly you should understand how to make this a mutual like space, and not just this my side, this yours.
Yeah, even if you have a roommate, you
Yeah,
come together and how you're going to organize the common spaces. And come on, I
she
don't know.
had no
I
say.
Well, that, and it very much gives bro friend vibes. No energy of, hey, I want to cater to you to make you feel comfortable. Okay, well, what do you want? We've yet to hear him
Even
say,
care.
yeah, even care to even say, "Oh, babe, but what side do you usually want?" Or da 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 da. Like nothing seems caring about
His
his
approach.
interactions with her.
Nothing
I
at
will say though that even though she said like, "Hey, I'm willing to give him grace and all that," I don't know, something about her doesn't take me as like her being foolish about it. I think
no.
she's holding back. The only thing she's been very vocal on is the whole, "Oh, he hasn't been in love. He hasn't been in love." I wish she would kind of let that go, but
It's
I
too
don't
much.
know, something the way her facial expressions are when he's talking, I don't think she's that green.
No, she's not green at all. Like that's why I'm like she's really trying because I think she knows better. But it's something interesting that I found out on the after party.
Mm,
So remember, Airris slept with someone before the process started, like the day before he found out he was engaged or something like that. So Jasmine on the after party said that they were following each other on Instagram, going through to see who their mutuals were, and they saw a guy, and she's like, "Oh, how do you know him?" Whatever. They saw a woman, "How do you know him?" Her, or whatever, and it was the woman that he had slept with 2 weeks before. And so it's someone that she knows. So she said she was already like not really feeling him and not really like, they weren't on the best in the best terms because of that. But yeah, so I think that has played a role into what we might have seen. So yeah,
oh, all this talk about this, I'm like, "Well, I hope these people getting tested." It's too much.
it is a lot. It is a lot.
Mm,
So they go to Eris's home, and he
mm.
has a home gym. I think his house looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Yeah,
Very organized about what I thought it would be. He's
yeah.
40, so
If it wasn't looking like that, that would be
yeah, it's
concern.
like you create a space where you want to spend the majority of your time in that season. Like at that age, I'd imagine you are more likely to spend more time at home and
Yes,
enjoy that space instead of like ripping and running here and there all the time. So it was exactly what I thought it would be. Right.
ripping and running.
Ripping and running.
Okay. There's nothing else that I have on them.
No, other than okay, so he did talk a lot about having his me time, centering himself, and I agree with that. I love me some me time, but for me, my ears are perking up in that I hear him talking more about that than you're
Coco.
in a marriage now, you're in a season where you're partnered.
Yeah.
I get you want your me time, but your me time kind of becomes deprioritized under like your family time a bit. And so because he's not in the headspace, I
At
think, of
all.
wanting to be married, you keep talking about all this me time, me time. Okay, first of all, you're married now, and you add kids on top of that. Your me time is going to be in the restroom.
And it's a new marriage. Like, like you will still get your me time. Obviously, Jasmine is someone who, from what we see, knows how to prioritize that.
Mhm.
So I think and she's so sweet for being like, oh, so I see it's important that he wasn't just trying to get away from me. But I think it's both. I think he does prioritize his me time. I also think he finds ways or reasons to not have to deal with her. I think he's trying to be gentle with her feelings because he knows he's not feeling her, but it's just not coming off great.
That and I hate to bring it up again, but yes, he's not feeling her, but he was definitely willing to take it to the next level with her physically. So that's what deducts points with me. I would have appreciated if he was just honest from day one.
Do you hate to bring it up, Miosha?
You know what? You're right. I don't. I love to bring it up. Just have to. That's how we arrived at feeling the way that we do about him.
Okay,
What
yeah,
one of the reasons.
it
So,
is.
all right.
Okay, Dumb and Mac.
Ooh, child.
All right, so we could get through the honeymoon.
Mhm.
I think he was really kind at the dinner. I think he has taken this like position of I need to chill a little bit so that this can work. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that about him because I think that's his way of putting in effort for this to succeed. Too bad for him. Like nothing that he does is gonna do that because she just
Yeah.
doesn't like him, and that's okay to not like it's fine. Um, but Dom, I don't want to say she upset me because it's not that deep. But when she said, "Well, I want you to want to do these things," I think maybe she showed her maturity or her immaturity a little bit because I think most people of a certain maturity level understand this person's not gonna want to do all the things that I want to do.
Mm.
And there will be several things that my partner does just because I'm interested in it that if he had the opportunity to do on his own would never happen, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, that to me was just like that's something she needs to get over.
Yeah, and I don't know what she told the experts, but I don't know. I just think that if she was if she was very upfront and honest about like the type of person she wanted and what she wants them to be into and all of that, and they just gave her the complete opposite, it's like, okay, I'd understand.
Mhm.
But it's making her, I think, look bad in that he's not saying that he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He's just like, "Oh, this isn't something that I would normally do." When she says she feels like she has to be a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, girl, what are you expecting? I don't know. And
Yeah,
then it's also like her complaining about stuff that you don't even do every day. You're on
exactly.
vacation. So
Yeah.
later on, she made a comment about, and I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but she
Okay.
says
I'll
something.
probably come back, but
Okay. She said something to the effect of, "Oh, well, now that, we're getting ready to go home, hopefully things will improve because he can be like back in his bubble and we'll
mhm,
have to do the stuff that he doesn't want to do." But it was just so condescending the way that she said
yeah.
it. I'm like, girl,
His lifestyle that's not adventurous at all.
yeah, I deducted some points for her this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, her whole energy and vibe. And I think that he has his issues. I'm not Team McKinley either. But the
Okay.
way she was talking to him, it just felt very condescending. Um, and he did start to call her out on it. I don't know if you want to circle back to that point
I
where he,
do.
okay.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
I respected that he stood up for himself. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm like humbling myself so that we can make this work, but I still have to have room to be myself. Like, you can't make me into what you want me to be and then just ask me to leave behind who I actually am. I still need that space too. And he's like, I give you the benefit of the doubt. You're not giving me any. And I think that's when she was like, oh, okay, maybe she started to realize a little bit what she was doing. I don't know that beyond that realization, she was trying to do anything with it. But I do think she did realize, oh, okay, I'm asking this grown man to be someone who he hasn't been for 30, however many years. Oh, he had 34 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's 34. So I think when he said it's been your way or the highway,
Mhm.
I think a light bulb for her went off and was like, wait, people are watching this play out.
I mean,
That's what I think.
okay.
I don't know that there was much realization there because
Okay.
her energy didn't shift much the rest of the episode. It was just more of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, Nashville, dating here, there may have made my heart hardened or whatever.
Yeah.
Which could be the case, but girl, you're not giving this man no breathing room.
And I'm glad he said something because he's like, I don't want to be walking on eggshells this and even if it is just for 8 weeks, I don't want to be walking on eggshells because I'm like, oh, what if like if I do this, it's gonna upset her. If I do that, she's gonna be mad. So I like that he spoke up for himself. Um, in her like private camera, she said
Mm.
something like essentially he got everything that he wanted and I didn't get anything that I wanted. Okay, she didn't
She
get
said something about, "I am all the areas he needs to improve on."
yeah.
Condescending.
Yes, that's what she said. And so I'm like, okay, it's giving Airris. It's like, oh, he's into me a 12 and I'm into him a 4.5. That was the vibe I was getting.
For me, it's more than that because I feel like she's throwing shots at him. At least Eris is like, "Oh, this girl is just into me." He
Yeah,
hasn't thrown shots yet.
at
You
all. And I
saying
don't think
that,
he
"Oh,
will.
Yeah. Oh, I'm basically great in all the areas that he's not or
Yeah.
that he needs to improve on.
Essentially, I'm a compliment to him, but he doesn't offer me much, is what I gathered from that.
Girl, just say you're not into this man and keep it moving.
Right. And I not that she was completely wrong because so they went to his house,
Mm-mm. In
his
people
his
house.
best friend's parents' house, and they went to his basement, which wasn't really his because it still had all their stuff in it and their pictures on the wall. Like
I
that's
mean,
a
look,
little,
if you move in my basement, I gotta move out all my stuff because you're gonna be here for a few months. I think not.
oh man. So I everything that she said was valid. And remember the very first episode or two when he was like, "Oh yeah, I live with my friends," and she didn't have a reaction, and we were like, maybe she's too naive to have a reaction to that. Baby, not no more. Okay. She's like, "Oh, so you don't have any of your things? Well, I don't have anything to judge you on because none of your things are here." And he was just like packing t-shirts. And so everything she said about his living condition was valid, and especially when she said, "So you don't want to commit to signing a lease, but you want to commit to marriage?" I was like, points were made, Dominique. I usually agree with you, but points were made.
So I agree. Points were made. His living situation is a mess. I mean, you're already at 5 months. You could have gotten a 6 month lease. Come on now. Or you could have just gotten an Airbnb. There's many options, but I will say though, I think a part of McKinley, for whatever reason, is very green to the optics of this. He knows his past in situations where he's at financially, decisions he's made. We don't know. She definitely doesn't know.
Mhm.
And I think a part of him thinks that because the experts knew his situation and they agreed for him to come on the show, I really think that he did not think it would be an issue. I like the way that his facial expressions are. And even he said, well, like I explained to you what the situation is. He just is not comprehending that this is a red flag
Yeah.
the way that we are. And I think it is because the experts did allow him to come on the show. Like if they thought it was okay, maybe my wife may feel uneasy,
Mhm.
but because she knows I'm already married to her or whatever, because you can move and still be married. I just don't think he's seeing that it's as big of a red flag that it is. It's a mess, but he don't see it. He
Yeah,
don't see
he
it.
doesn't see it at all.
And that goes back to why would the experts allow him on the show?
I just he could have done a lot more to reassure her. He could have done a lot more to be like, okay, I had planned by the 6 month, that's enough time to be in Nashville and see where things are and where I want to settle. So there were things that he could have said, like, okay, no, I haven't signed a lease yet, but these are the areas that I'm looking forward to, like finding an apartment in, or I'm looking to buy a house or a condo or whatever. Like there are things he could have said that made him look less irresponsible and less I'm just passing through.
Because
You
he didn't
know?
wanna lie. As he
Cuz
said earlier, there's some people lying out here. He did I don't think he wanted to set it up as that was a thing because he don't know. He's still in the basement. He's
yeah.
still trying to figure it out. Why would he say, "Oh, there's a potential?" There ain't no potential.
Yeah. Yeah, so he couldn't say it because it's not true, but I think her I think there are a couple concerns. One, him being complacent, but if he is just
Mhm.
passing through and I'm the woman who's with you, like I'm not about to pack up my life and leave. So really, what are your expectations? What, for the future, for the next 2 years? Like, do you plan on moving somewhere else? You lived, I think he went from California, or he went from Michigan to California to Tennessee or
Yeah.
something. Like there were three moves and Tennessee was the last one. So she's like, you're on your like coast to coast, trials, and I'm not about that life. I'm settled. I think she has a house or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, for me, I if he were 24, I would say up until like between 20 and 25, and you
Okay.
made a big cross country move, you're still early in your career, I would understand you making a pit stop at a family member's house to get your permanent place set up. But at 34, like I need to see your lifestyle and how you're used to living. Just like, what is your setup? How,
Yeah.
Jasmine was able to go to Airris's house and kind of see,
Him as
the
a
lay
person.
exactly the lay of the land. This is what's important to you or not. She can't go off of anything because she has to go through somebody else's house in the
Yeah.
basement with no door.
She was absolutely right on with
Like,
everything
this
that
is
she
what you feel comfortable with for 5 months
Yeah.
at this age?
Yeah, or at least like, okay, this is what my next step is. Like what? Something has to give. So she has shut it down essentially from that point. So next week picks up at the same place.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what's gonna happen because in the previews it's saying like she's like, I'm gonna go home and take a shower and go to bed. So I don't know what's gonna happen with them, but it's definitely not looking good. And I think for very valid reasons. Pastor Cal's coming through next week, I saw. So we're gonna need some answers from Pastor Cal.
What is going on here?
Why was McKinley picked?
Why was he picked for this show?
And
And
for
they
her.
went and saw his place and everything, and they thought that
Yeah.
that was okay. But I don't know, the way he was looking in that conversation, I really think he is kind of clueless to how this looks. When he was like, oh well, I don't want to pay for two places at once, and da 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 da. Like, he has it all laid out in his head,
And it makes
but
sense to him.
and it makes sense to him because maybe he has the full picture and information. But for everyone else,
Yeah, but then give her the full picture. That's what I'm saying. Like he could have done something to say, these are what my intentions are. I know people on Twitter were like, he came on this show for exposure for whatever business it is that he got, maybe because there's just no way. Like people think he moved to Nashville for the show.
and maybe that's why his mom said, what if he comes back to Flint? Because who knows? He may have mentioned to her like, oh, I'm gonna move back, whatever. And there's nothing tying him there anyway. So
Yeah, exactly.
we shall see.
All right. Well, tomorrow we have a brand new podcast episode coming out about negotiating your salary or not even just your salary, but your benefits package. We have a guest on who works in HR. And so definitely tune into that. She dropped a lot of gems. So that'll drop tomorrow, Friday. And we will see you guys next week.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.